Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren is taking on large corporations by introducing a bill aimed at holding companies accountable, in her words, to their employees and other so-called stakeholders, not just shareholders. Now, Warren says companies have been operating in a way that makes them, quote, slaves to shareholders. Fox Business Network, across, by the way, all of our platforms, we have reached out several times to Senator Warren to see if she'd come on and discuss her newly proposed legislation. But as of yet, we have yet to receive any response. Joining us now by way of phone is a friend of ours that knows a thing or two about capitalism, Alan Questrom, former CEO of J.C. Penney and a former director of Walmart. Alan, thanks for joining the show.
Hi, Charles. It's nice to be on your show. You do a wonderful job.
Well, I appreciate it very much. And I got to tell you, this is a serious issue. We're talking about the U.S. economic system, how it's been created and how it will look in years to come. And this is not the first time Elizabeth Warren has suggested that business owe their success and should share in the wealth beyond their shareholders. We know the old famous, infamous, you didn't build that. But speak to us about the notion that she brought up that these companies are slaves to shareholders.
Well, I think that they're slaves, quite frankly, I wouldn't call them slaves, but I think the best companies are mostly concerned about their customers. That's number one in their mind. And then followed is by their employees and then their shareholders. That's how I have always operated, because I believe that if you take care of your customers and give them what they want and service them properly, you'll get the rewards, and then you can afford to pay your sales associates or your people working in your company. And then, based on that success, you have money to pay your shareholder. The shareholder is going to invest in your company based on the returns of that company. But if you don't take care of your customers long term, you're not going to be around to share any of that wealth with the shareholder.
Alan, let me jump in, because I don't disagree with you. In fact, in her op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, Elizabeth Warren said in 1981, the Business Roundtable, which of course represents large U.S. companies, stated that corporations have a responsibility, first of all, to make available to the public quality goods and services at fair prices, thereby earning profits that attract investments to continue and enhance the enterprise, provide jobs, and build the economy. She admitted that the approach worked, but what she's saying now is that something has gone terribly wrong, where CEOs are making exorbitant amounts of money, and everyone else seems to be falling behind. Is there any legitimacy to what she's saying?
I think there's some legitimacy to that. I do believe that all CEOs, all executives, do have a responsibility to how much their employees are being making when they consider their own wages. I believe that the CEO's wages are, in the last 10, 15 years, gotten quite high, but it was really pressed by many of the investment firms wanting to see returns on investment. So they wanted the owners, the CEOs, to take more shares and not wages. And so we limited wages down to I think $1,300,000 or $1 million in terms of the tax deductibility. And I believe that's plenty fine. I've always believed that shareholders and the employees of the company, who also have stock, benefit when the company does well and it turns up in the stock price. But many companies have shares with their employees. All my companies, we had ownership in the company.
Right,
so
profit sharing.
Yeah, that's benefit.
Right.
But it is, the belief is that we don't pay the people enough. Now, I give her credit on some of that. I do think this, in the last 20 years, there's been a softening of that. It's a little hard to read those numbers, because a lot of these numbers, people work on the side. You don't get all the true figures.
Right.
But I do believe that when you look at capitalism itself, if a person doesn't like their job and they think they can get money someplace else, then they're going to leave. But when business is doing well, like it's doing now, you're seeing wages starting to go up. You're seeing employment going up, because businesses feel positive about the future, and they're paying their employees
more. Well, then
more.
let me pose one question to you here, Alan. We talk about shareholders, and obviously, if I was developing some gadget in my garage and I thought it was great, and I was to ask people to help me invest in it, they would certainly be shareholders. Do we consider current day shareholders in the same light, considering there was a time people owned stock, the average holding period for stock was maybe 10 years, now it's 10 minutes. So owners of Apple today may not be in the stock 2 days from now. So what's the allegiance that corporations owe to these folks who are turning over the stock, trading stock price, and not necessarily embracing the company?
Well, there's no question, Charles, there's a lot of people who trade stock. But there's lots and lots of people who hold stock for a long period of time. I have stock that I was giving in terms of stock options or grant that I kept for the full 10 years. And I cashed out when the time span and when they were going to go deceased. So I do believe as a shareholder or as a board member, you hold the stock as long as you're there. So I am a believer of holding stock. I don't buy stock.
I get that, but I'm saying in the realities right now, particularly of these larger publicly traded companies, people are buying the stock looking for price appreciation and not necessarily the shareholders in a sense that they are investors in the company like you might think of with a startup.
No, I agree with that. That is happened over the last 15 to 20 years. You see many people buying and selling. But you look at some of these companies. You look at the top 10 shareholders. A lot of those people are in for the long term. There are some who are in for the trade. But, you can't control it. Everybody has a different way they're going to approach business. But a successful company like Apple, they are long-term players that own that stock. And I would say many of your big companies, successful companies, as long as they believe that's a good company, they're going to keep investing in it. Capitalism is one of the greatest things of all time. People always talk about socialism. In fact, today there's more people, particularly in the Democratic Party, believe in socialism. But you look at the number of people who are trying to come to the United States. They're coming here because they believe in this country and they can improve the benefits of their family.
There's no doubt about that, Alan. But let me ask you, because with the Democrats you just referenced, now they're framing this like not Venezuelan capitalism per se, but a Canadian-style capitalism, a Sweden-style capitalism, a Norway-style capitalism. I'm not sure how many people are abandoning those countries to live in America. And I was struck earlier in the week when a Gallup poll came out, 18 to 29-year-olds in 2010, 68% said capitalism, they had a positive view. That number's down to 45%. Are you concerned, as someone who understands how the system works, that either it's not being articulated properly to younger generations, or maybe they may have a legitimate beef here?
I think it is not being properly articulated. But when you compare Norway with 5 million people and Sweden with 10 and Canada with 31, and they're all very similar. You take America, we are a melting pot of people. We're 330 million people. You can't have a system that works like that here in the United States, in my belief. Now, Canada is a small economy versus us. We are the largest economy in the world. We come up with more inventions than any other country in the world because we are a capitalistic society here. That's what's built this country to be the greatest it is. And we attract people from all over the world who are capitalists in the sense that they think they can improve their life by coming here.
Yeah. Alan, that's the point I always make to people. The inventions that have made our lives better, that make our lives more enriching, that have given us longer life expectancy, you don't get those from Canada, from Sweden, and from Norway. Great countries, great in so many different ways, but the innovation that has driven the humanist experience all happens in this country, and it happens because of capitalism. Alan, really, thank you very much. We really appreciate it, and we've got to get you back here real soon. Thank you.
I love your show. You do a great job. You need people like you to talk about both sides, because I think you have to see both sides of the argument, capitalist and social, and let the people see the difference and let them make a decision.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
That's what your show does.
All right.
Thank you, sir.